Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world away from the numbers.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall,
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhower.
and unfortunately we're not joined by Steve this week. We'll hopefully have him back on the show next week, but we've got a lot to cover in the next 2 hours. It's been another busy week in MLS, Whitecaps land, Canada soccer. A lot of things that we're going to be going over in the show tonight. We're going to be bringing you some audio from some press conferences. We're going to be looking at some of the MLS chatter. And we've got a couple of little fun things to throw in for you as well. But before we get into all of that, can I find out how your week's been, Zach? I've been very busy this weekend watching FA Cup football. It's one of my favourite passions, watching cup football. Maybe a bit of a sore point with you after what happened to Bayern, but I think the result midweek, seeing Real Madrid knocked out in Spain, and there was a couple of close calls and stuff in the FA Cup this weekend. For me, I just love cup football. It's one of the best things to watch. I just wish the Canadian Championship can get a bit more expanded so we can have some of this level of excitement in the Canadian Cup competitions.
Yeah, I mean, the highlight of my footballing week was probably Kirk and I wrapping up the treble in FIFA with Bayern. That was fun.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, so we keep moving up levels, so levels of play. So we'll move on to the next level in our new season when we start next Friday. Yeah, we've had a pretty good beginning to the transfer window. But yeah, I mean, the FA Cup is not something I'm following much this year. So
Yeah,
I
I can understand.
you and a couple other friends. I used to follow it a lot more, but yeah, I mean, the cup competitions are nice, and they either I guess nowadays what happens is you get to see some young players play for the big teams and see if they can
Which I
they can impress,
don't like as much.
No,
But
or you
I mean,
get to
if it causes closer games, a
Yeah.
non-league side like Chorley just going down 1-0 to Premier Wolves, and that was to an early goal as well, and it's like they had a great chance to level it up and everything. You don't get that, I guess, if you're playing the full-strength teams. Cheltenham Town were 1-up against Man City with 10 minutes to go before Man City's strength took over and they scored 3 goals late on. Again, a full-strength Man City team, you're not going to get that kind of result. But it's been sad to see a lot of these games, obviously with no fans there, and it just makes you miss, like when you see games like that, it makes you miss the fans not being there even more, I think, which is one of the things I know that whenever things get underway here for MLS, CPL, we'll touch on those two things in this episode, you just want the fans back, and it still feels a long way away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. In the cup matches, especially when you get to play in the smaller grounds where the lower league teams get to host, those are pretty awesome because it's a massive day for those fans, and they usually, obviously, the stadium's usually full, and there's a little bit more to the singing, as you know from your experiences. So yeah. I mean, football is something different without supporters in the stadium.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
we're thankful to have at least something, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. At first, it didn't really bother me that much, but as it's gone on, especially like, I've kind of hardly watched any Premier games this year because, I don't know, without the fans there, it's not kind of hooked me in. And yeah, it's just strange watching it because at first you didn't really notice it too much, but the more it goes on, now it's like, yeah, really, really need this to change. It's got a bit boring.
I've gotten used to it now.
Yeah, not in a
That's
good way.
not a good thing, but
yeah. Well, that's a big discussion that we've had on our East 5 podcast. Once fans can go back, do fans go back because they've been missing it so much, or have they got used to watching things at home? Have they got used to watching the streams? And it might be hard to tempt some folk back to sit in, like in a UK scenario, in the cold winter months, but you could be sitting at home watching it in the luxury of your own living room in a big screen TV, front row seat, cup of coffee or beer or whatever you want. Anyway, hopefully we'll get some fans into some football on this continent this year. As I said, it does kind of seem a long way away, but things are progressing. And of course, you know the MLS season is close, or maybe close, when it's MLS Draft Day. And we had the draft on Thursday. I'm going to stick my neck out here, because I haven't asked you this, and say, you didn't watch it, Zach. Am I right in saying that?
No, I did not. It was the online thing, right? I caught a couple of the highlights, but no, I didn't watch the whole thing.
I genuinely felt sorry for the guys hosting it. Now, it takes a lot for me to feel sorry for Matt Doyle because of his anti-Whitecaps stances on the whole. But him and Andrew Wiebe, to have to fill 2 hours of mostly boring stuff, it was a task. And I thought they were doing it for all the rounds, but they said, yeah, we're rounds 2 and 3 can just fall on the tracker. We're stopping it now. And it's like, I bet you're glad about that, because how much small talk can you make for 4 minutes between every single draft pick?
Yeah, I stopped listening to both those guys and how they communicate based on some of their perspectives and their approach, and their connection to the league. But I don't feel bad for them because at least they have jobs.
That's true.
Unlike some of their friends.
MLS that haven't,
yeah. But yeah. It's too bad. I mean, obviously MLS was going to pay to do something social distance, like to the degree of like they've done in the past, where they're at a big conference center or whatever. But and then broadcast that. But whatever, it was what it was. And
I mean, it's dry at the best of times. Yeah, it's dry at the best of times. Never mind when you're just watching folks staring at a screen, and then there's a little bit of technical difficulties with some of them as well. I mean, I loved how, before the first pick, Austin had the first pick, everyone was going on about, it's clear cut. It's going to be Clemson midfielder, Philip Mayaka. He's the clearest, I think it was Andrew Wiebe that said this, the clearest first pick in a draft since Kyle Larin. Then he wasn't picked first. Then he wasn't picked second. He did eventually go third, but it's like,
were there reasons given why he didn't go in those spots? Like, wasn't fit for those
Austin it wasn't what they were looking for, so they went for a player that they were looking for. It's that old thing. It's like, do you go for the best player available, or do you go for a need? And I think for an expansion team, you go for your need. There's no point picking a midfielder if he's not going to be playing in your team, because you don't want a midfielder in that team.
Yeah. Was it reminiscent of like Nagby Salgado kind of thing?
I don't know, because I don't think that one was as clear cut, although obviously hindsight's a great thing, and you look back and Nagby's possibly the best ever player, you could argue, that's come out of the draft in terms of having an MLS career, just because his longevity is still in MLS. He's won MLS Cups and everything like that. So I don't know, but all 3 rounds are done and dusted now. They did it all in the one day. There's no telephone one for round 3 later on.
That's good.
We talked last week that the 3 SFU guys were up, Chris Guerrera and the 2 Polisi brothers. Now, they weren't selected, any of those, and I don't think that was a big surprise, really, because you've got the whole Canadian domestic thing. CTV actually did a lovely feature on the Polisi brothers the night of the draft, and I guess they had done it hoping that they were going to get picked so they could then just slice a little bit extra in, but they hadn't got picked. I loved the piece because they used my commentary from the TSS games for a couple of the clips that they showed. Not even Gideon as the main commentator, just my colour things talking about the goal, and that you just hear my voice as the clip ends just trailing out of the piece. So obviously I loved that and made Caitlin watch it a couple of times. I had to make her watch it a couple of times because I made her watch it the first time. I said, "What do you think of that?" And she's like, "What was I meant to be listening for?" I was like, "Let me play it again for you." And I played it again. I'm looking at her and she's like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yes, it's me. You've only been with me for 18 years. You must know my voice by now." Anyway.
I feel bad for Gideon.
He's briefly there, but they talk over him. But it was nice to see it, and also the AFTN logo gets flashed up because it's on the score thing. So
represent.
That's the whole reason that I did it, so I could get these moments. But 2 Canadians were taken in the draft. Sporting Kansas City selected North Carolina defender Matt Constant. No idea who he is. But the Whitecaps, with their 4th and final pick of the draft, did pick a guy that we know. A residency alumni, centre-back Joe Harrison from the University of Michigan. He's a captain at Michigan. And it did lead people to wondering, why did the Whitecaps have to draft their own homegrown guy? So I've had a couple of folk message me about that. So just to clarify it, the weird and wonderful MLS rules, homegrown players have to fulfill certain criteria for clubs still to keep their rights. Basically, it's they have to return to the parent club, do some training over the summer. That's usually it. Now, it's a two-way street because the club has to keep an interest in the player and bring them back. But also if a player's like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with this club anymore, I'd rather just cut my strings and be out in the wild and be drafted by whoever, then they don't need to keep in touch. Now, Joe Harrison at one point was meant to come back and play for TSS Rovers one summer, but he decided to stay in Michigan and do some extra schooling, plus his girlfriend was there, and he didn't really want to kind of leave all that. So, I mean, that's understandable. We might not see him as a Whitecap, though, for a while or ever, because he is going back to school, as is their 3rd round pick, Eric Iloski from UCLA, a midfielder. So they're still eligible to go back to college, and by the sounds of what MDS said, that's probably what they're going to do. But it is weird that you bring a guy through your residency program and you have to then take a draft pick to draft him.
Well, I mean, we don't have to go into all the details, but we know multiple players who have chosen to get out of the Whitecaps MLS net, whether it be through going to school or going to the Canadian Premier League or going other places to try and remove the Whitecaps' hold on their MLS rights. So, maybe that wasn't Harrison's intentions, but they now have his rights again, and we'll see how it plays out.
He was very highly rated when he came through the residency program as well, and I know they wanted to offer him a homegrown deal way back then, but he wanted to go down the college route, get an education, and I do encourage players to do that. I think that's the sensible thing to do. And as a centre-back, you've got a lot of longevity in the game, so I think you can afford to do that.
Yeah.
But Harrison and Iloski were 2 of the 4 picks. It's the other 2 that we're going to focus on. That's who the Whitecaps are going to be focusing on in pre-season camp. They signed from the University of Akron, Nigerian forward David Egbo. He went 9th overall. Then 23rd overall was Jamaican defender Javain Brown from South Florida University. And those 2 guys, they show a lot of promise. Egbo has 21 goals and 13 assists and 56 appearances over 3 college seasons. 35 of those appearances were starts. He went to the College Cup with Akron in 2018, where they lost in the final. He looks a fast player, an eye for goal. Although he can play out wide, he's a bustling centre forward. He's kind of an old school kind of style centre forward. in a lot of ways, he kind of looks, his playing style, a lot like Cava. It's kind of that kind of bustling, like raging bull kind of striker. And I'm excited to see him and Cava play together as to what they can bring. I think potentially, if they do play together, I'm not talking about Egbo as a starter, or at least not right away anyway, but coming off the bench, those two guys can kind of cause a little bit of bruising for some defenders, I think, with their kind of style of play.
Yeah, I mean, before talking about the player specifically, like if you go back and look at the history of the draft, whatever, it's 20 years, I think, 2000, I think 2000 was the first draft. So this is whatever, the 21st, I guess. Players coming through the draft, unlike a Darlington Nagby, like you mentioned before, they don't, it's a bit of a, it's a very low number of them that actually make an impact on their team, especially an impact early on. And so I think people need to sort of maybe reserve judgment, and lower
temper expectations,
lower their expectations for now. Because here's the thing, like I think what happens, and this year is a prime example. Maybe it's heightened because of the pandemic and other things, but which we'll talk about later. But there's nothing else to talk about for the Whitecaps in terms of players, really.
Yeah.
And so people are looking at these guys coming, these two, especially these first two picks. They're looking at them and they're like, oh, like I think they could fill this hole, and they have abilities that might fit here. And people, like, you just get as a fan, as a supporter, as media, you get excited because you see the anticipation, or you anticipate the potential contributions or potential role they could play, like you were just talking about. And I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I just think the expectations need to be really, really low based on what's happened in 21 years of the draft and what's happened in 11 years of the draft in Vancouver.
Yeah, we haven't been the luckiest, and our most successful ones tend to be defenders, which could make Javain Brown an interesting pick, because he's not your run-of-the-mill draft pick in that he's actually had 4 senior caps for Jamaica. And he's played at youth level for Jamaica, under 23 for Jamaica. And
no joke there.
I was getting to that. And he's coming to Vancouver of his own accord. Hopefully, because he has actually got a USL deal with Atlanta too.
Oh, say that again.
They've signed, Atlanta too have signed him to a USL deal. He's one of a few players in the MLS draft that have signed USL deals. But the MLS clubs have first choice over them, but they have to make him a bona fide offer, or he'll go and play USL with Atlanta too. But we would hold his MLS rights.
Oh, man. So he has a signed deal with Atlanta too to play USL. Yep. But, okay, that's messed up, because a USL team, no problem. But a USL team that's connected to an MLS team, that should not be allowed. Like that's stupid.
To be fair, though, if you look through the draft, Atlanta too seem to have signed a hell of a lot of players that were in this draft. I don't know if that's some weird kind of tactic of theirs or whatever, but it's an interesting one. I mean, the Whitecaps have his rights. He's a right back, and we do need a backup as a right back.
Yeah,
he's got experience.
That's what. So Egbo. Am I pronouncing it? Yeah, Egbo.
Yeah.
Egbo, I think, is more catches people eye because he was caught earlier. He was drafted earlier. Caught in the Whitecaps net earlier. He was drafted earlier, and he's a forward, a striker. He scored some goals. His record is not like crazy, blow your mind crazy, but it's exciting. Like it's respectable, his college contributions, but the person I'm more interested in to see what Brown can do at right back, because like I think I saw a couple highlights or whatever, but like you want to get him in and see what he can. I mean, I assume they're going to offer him a deal because they have no depth at right back.
Yeah, and they need a backup right back from somewhere.
Well, they need it. Well, I think arguably one of the conversations last year was they need an upgrade at right back, and so
yes.
So this arguably should be one of those two things. It should be depth / your backup, or it should be someone who's either going to push Jake or overtake Jake.
I think he could push him. Like he's played in the Jamaican Premier League as well, which is obviously a way lower level. He has only played one college season because he was redshirted in his first year in 2018. Now, the thing with both Egbo and Brown, they did not play a competitive minute in 2020, like a lot of these guys in the draft. And, I mean, I described it, which I checked, and it is more a UK phrase, but I think it is known over here, pig in a poke. No? A pig in a poke is you're taking a punt on something, kind of a little bit. Yeah. It's like you're going into something a little bit blind. Now, this isn't a total pig in a poke because you've got a body of work to look at. But a lot of these guys, their senior year is where you kind of really see some guys take that step forward or they just don't advance at all. So we don't know what both those guys would have been like in 2020. You have to hope that they haven't had a step backwards in their development either. I asked them a bit about that in the presser. So let's bring you some audio just now from both of them, then we'll talk a little bit more about them as well. So both the guys spoke to media on Thursday after the draft. So let's hear now from David Egbo and Javain Brown.
Getting drafted and I know it.
Hi guys, congratulations to both of you and welcome to Vancouver. I've just got a couple of questions for David to start off with. Obviously, one of the fun things about draft day is we get to learn more about you guys and like your backstory and your journey. So for yourself, David, just really curious, what brought you from Nigeria over to the Kiski school, and then how did that journey go on to Akron for you?
So I came to the U.S. in 2014, Kiski School. I was back in Nigeria. I was in a program called the NTN Football Scholars, and the program helps kids. It gives them the opportunity to come to the U.S. on an academic scholarship, and I was lucky enough to get scouted to join that program. And then I went to Kiski Prep, and I was there for 3 years, and then I decided to stay close to, because I made family in Pennsylvania, and I decided to stay close to home by attending the University of Akron.
So, I mean, Akron's such a well-renowned school for soccer in North America, but like a lot of you guys, it's been a difficult 2020 because you weren't really able to play any games. How did you manage to keep yourself fit, keep up to match sharpness, and do you feel that you might be a little bit behind some of the guys that's going to be in training camp once pre-season does get underway?
I mean, we haven't played a competitive game in over a year or that, but that's no excuse, you know. I think with the whole layoff or break or whatever people want to call it, I would say, you know, it's about having the right mentality. You know, it's about what you want to get in every day from practice. So some people can be like, all right, well, I'm not training for anything, so I could just take today off and chill. But it's about going to practice, you know, day by day and just saying, I'm going to use today to get better, and then keep using the next day to get better and better. So I saw it as a chance, you know, just to get myself better and take myself to the next level. I haven't played a game in a while, but, you know, for me, as long as I was practicing and I was healthy. So I guess my main goal was just to get better every day from practice. So I don't think I'm behind in preseason, but people may think so. But personally, I don't think I am. But I'm really excited to go to camp and see what happens.
I understand that one of your assistant coaches there in Akron used to play for the Whitecaps, and Michael Nashaw. Has he given you any tips on what to expect when you come up here?
Yeah, I spoke to him. He was actually here with me. He told me it's a great place. They look out for you, that they're going to take care of me, and you know, just have fun, enjoy the moment, and be ready to work.
All right, next question is for Javain. Just wondering how you would describe your game. Obviously, you've played at a high level with the international ranks in Jamaica and also NCAA. How do you see yourself fitting in the MLS, which is known as quite a physical league?
I'm quite physical, you know, because most Jamaican center back / right back or known for that, gaining experience in U17, U20, U23, and also the national team for Jamaica, is quite a really good experience for me. I played against really top players like Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, U17. I played against a couple of good teams. In the Pan American games, I played against a couple of Uruguay players that I'm seeing playing in Mexico and in also the MLS. I played against Honduras. I played against numerous teams that I gained a lot of experience from playing against those teams because, those players are hungry about soccer. They're really, that's what they eat, So playing against those players, you got to think twice ahead of them, because once they make a move on you, you got to be like, whoa. You probably like, whoa, where's this guy coming from? Or, so I gained a lot of experience playing for the national team, which I'm grateful. I also played home for RBView FC in the pro league, coming out of high school. I played 2 seasons for RBView. It was a good experience before I took the opportunity to go to the University of South Florida.
David, for those of us who haven't seen you play, what kind of, how would you describe yourself at a forward? What are you good at?
That's a very good question. Personally, I think I'm good at everything, and that's not to sound cocky or because I think my versatility, I can play whatever position on the left, center, right, center mid. I can play back to goal. I wouldn't say I'm the perfect striker, but I think I have a little bit of everything, and that's what makes me different from the rest of the strikers. So I think it's just for me. I play more. I love to play. I play center mid. I play center mid for Akron and played center mid for my summer league. When we played. So to answer your question, I would say I'm a little bit different than most strikers are in the MLS. So I'm just really excited to see what the coach has in store for me.
This one's to both of you. We'll start with Javain. When did you know that Vancouver might have an interest in you? Was it just when you were selected, or had you had a chat with anyone from the club in the build-up to the draft?
Yeah, I had a talk with someone yesterday, surprisingly. It was a good talk. I was kind of excited because, he said he watched me in a couple games that I didn't even know. I didn't even know that anyone pulled that game up. I was kind of excited, and he told me that. First thing he called me was like, I must be having a lot of time that I called you. I'm like, no, you must be interested in me while you take your phone and call me, And I told him before, he asked me a couple questions, which is I look into myself, because everyone knows a Jamaican. Like a lot of Jamaican players come in the league, they don't stand out as they should. They do a lot of bad stuff, which is I understand where it's coming from, and I put my everything in it. When it comes on to soccer, I try to be serious and I try to be disciplined. Coming from Jamaica, it was hard to adapt to the American system, instead of your diet in terms of time and stuff like that, but going to USF, that team has taught me a lot. The Coach Bob, Coach Jeremy, all of them taught me a lot that I see my life change. I give thanks for.
What about yourself, David? When did you have any contact from the club? Did you know that they were maybe looking to pick you with their first pick?
I got in contact with the team yesterday. Spoke to the coach yesterday, and then we had a very good conversation. So I was a little more relaxed than I was over the past couple weeks. But I didn't really want to, get my hopes up. I just wanted to be myself when I was on the phone with him, and just, and that's what happened. And I sort of got the vibe that, okay, maybe he likes me and he might do it. But, I was just like, all right, well, if Vancouver passes on me, then, anything can happen at this point.
Vancouver, they're wanting to play a pressing style. They've kind of recently switched to having 2 strikers, but there's a lot of defensive responsibility expected of the strikers. Is that a part of the game that you're comfortable with, the defensive side, or is that an aspect that you feel you might need to work on a little bit?
Yeah, it's a part of the game that I'm comfortable with. I'm like defense. Defense wins championships. You cannot play both sides of the ball and decide and think you're going to be on the field. I to I mean playing at Akron, it's the same way. We do high intensity pressing, and that's how we like to press. That's how we like to play. So for me, I think pressing, playing on the offensive end of high pressure, it's a style that I really like, and I've adapted to it over the past years. And and whichever style Vancouver wants to play, that's what I'm there. That's what I'm there for.
Javain talked about his time playing with Jamaica. I'd read just very briefly, just doing some quick research on you, David, like your desire to play for Nigeria at some point down the road, and how you'd had chats with your father about that in the past. How much have the Nigerian officials kind of paid attention to you in the last couple of years with what you've done at college? And are you really hoping that this move to MLS is maybe going to springboard that for you?
I have had a couple conversations with the Nigerian chats. In 2015, last time I was home, I was at the U17 camp with some of those guys, like those big players who were like Victor Osimhen and all those, and the rest of them. And that was very good exposure for me, but other than that, I haven't really gotten in contact with the national team, and for me, I'm not trying to use this as a place to say springboard and get myself into the national team. It's just I just want to play for Vancouver and just enjoy the moment, and whatever exposure comes, it's something that I'll be open to and just willing to take in day by day.
Thanks so much, guys, and good luck. Look forward to seeing you in the pitch soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Getting drafted and I know it. Getting drafted and I know it. Getting drafted and I know it.
So David Egbo and Javain Brown there. Both of them don't lack confidence.
No.
We've seen some confident Jamaicans on the Whitecaps team before, especially some draft picks that have been a little bit confident from Jamaica before. Good old Darren, Andre Lewis. Yeah. But you have to back up that confidence anyway. But they seem capable. They seem genuinely nice guys. They both seem really excited to be coming to Vancouver and coming to a young team. I think that excites them a bit more because they know it is a young team. Now, if both of them make it onto the roster, though, as I asked there, they both take up an international spot. Now, we only have 3 spots remaining, and we've just traded for one of those spots with Nashville, which is how we dropped down the draft a little bit. So, if Saicedo comes in, that takes one of those spots, then they would take the other 2. And right away, I've got alarm bells going off going, this does not look good. But MDS, as we'll hear in the next part, said, don't worry about international spots. Said that's not going to be a concern. So either they know they can acquire them easily, or some people that currently are taking international spots are no longer going to be on the team. So we can look into that anyway. But yeah, it is a little bit of a flyer on them. Brown might be the guy that's got more MLS experience, but I agree with you. Like, temper expectations on this one. We're going to talk about something, though, in the third part when we hear from Cava. There's going to be a lot of players away from the Whitecaps this year on international duty with Canada.
Assuming those international matches go ahead.
Well, yeah. Maybe international duty with other countries as well. We need depth.
Yeah.
And it's Egbo the guy that can be depth up front. Where does that leave Theo Bayer? A lot of questions.
Can I put a question out there, Mike?
Sure.
Michael, for listeners. So listeners, those of you especially listen to the show for a while, go on Twitter at AFTN and
Canada. At AFTN Canada.
Oh, sorry, I forget which has the Canada. At AFTN Canada on Twitter, and tell Mike, or I want you to predict which of these two, Egbo or Brown, is going to be Michael's favorite interview just between the two of them, not the whole team.
Oh.
But for 2021, which one's going to be Michael's favorite interview? Because we know there are going to be multiple times this year where Michael comes to us and says, "Oh, my new favorite interview was with this person."
It would have been if they drafted the Scottish guy that Austin drafted at the first pick of the second round. He would have been my favourite draft pick, but they didn't go for him.
No.
And a lot of the Scottish guys are leaving MLS to go back to Scotland. So
Johnny?
No, he's still here. Gary Mackay-Steven has left New York City FC, and I believe Chris Cadden has left Columbus, so I need to double check on that. But anyway, that is it for this part. We are going to be back talking more Whitecaps and hearing from MDS and Axel Schuster. And we'll be back with all of that after this.
Hi, I'm Marc dos Santos, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
When the world looks like a Christmas cake, I had to put my foot in it. Shadow boxing with the snowflakes and shouting from the summit. I was only born a bastard once. It didn't stop me getting blasted once. But now that I'm the king, wrecking everything, I don't wanna go home. I wanna be alone, pissing in the snow.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part was a song from 1994, an English band, Kinky Machine, Pissing in the Snow. From their album Bent. Takes you back, pissing in the snow. Don't eat the yellow snow, that famous expression. I was promised a snowstorm. I did not get a snowstorm. I am disappointed, as I believe the kids say.
Yeah, my children and my wife, who's an EA, are also disappointed that tomorrow's not a snow day.
I was kind of quite pleased in a way because I had to take Caitlin to get her blood taken, her 6-monthly blood check that she has to do for her thyroid. So I didn't fancy driving at 10 o'clock this morning in the snow. So I woke up, I was like, that snowstorm hasn't really come to anything. I mean, was there snow at your neck of the woods out in the interior?
Yeah. Yes, here in the Fraser Valley, there was snow, Michael. But it was like, it didn't really stay on the ground. Even up here on our little mountain.
I mean, we should be used to disappointment in Vancouver. I mean, Environment Canada predicting snow in Vancouver is much like the Whitecaps looking to deliver a number 10. It's promised every year, and it just never seems to happen.
Oh, man.
Maybe this year will be the year. We'll get a number 10, and we'll all be snowed in. I'd take that.
Well, at least there seems to be some... the news around it and the rumors around it seem more exciting than previous years, don't they?
Yeah, a lot of the weather reporters were talking about it. We talked about the Whitecaps number 10. Oh, yeah. No, there does seem to be... We're going for guys. Let's leave it at that for now. Actually, we are going to talk about that in this part. And, yeah, hopefully it's going to be a busy few weeks coming up for the Whitecaps, because it hasn't been so far. These draft picks, as Zach said in the first part, are the exciting thing that we've got to talk about, which is why everyone's analysing them in depth. But what did head coach Marc Santos and sporting director Axel Schuster make of the picks? What lies in store for the coming weeks, the season to come? How is the search for adding talent coming up? We're going to play a little bit of audio now from the press conferences that they had on Thursday after the draft as well. And then we'll unpack a little bit of what they said after it. So here's MDS and Axel Schuster. Start off with the draft. 4 selections today. We've just spoken to the first 2 guys, and David and Javain, and it's like, I know we've found a little bit out about them, but what was it that interested you in them? And also bringing Joel Harrison back to the club, former residency player. What did you see in him?
So I'll focus on the first 2 because the other 2 are still eligible for school, and we're still gonna work things out to see where they fit. And Axel is gonna probably be able to speak a little bit more about them. When it comes to David and Javain, it was both to look at the best quality possible when it was our turn to draft, and also looking at some positional needs inside a roster. David is a number 9 or a forward that could play both in a men type, only one man type of role, and also with 2 forwards. So he gives us that flexibility. He had a very good year at Akron. He's a left-footed forward that, not only creates inside, but also creates outside the box. Very active. He was very active for his team. As Javain Brown is a player that's been called for the U20 and U23 of Jamaica. Could be a player that could be also an option at the Gold Cup for his country. So we think he has a very good upside. Now, how is that going to be translated at our level? Preseason and camp is gonna show that. An athletic player that has played more as a center back in college, but we focused more at what he was able to bring with his national team as a right back. Very athletic type of player, aggressive defensively, still good on the ball. So we felt that both of them had the tools not only to show good things in preseason, but also maybe bring us some depth in those positions that could be needed when you look at the schedule also of the international camps and what could happen with Canada, with the schedule. Some of the players are not going to be with us, and it's important that we're ready and we have depth, and that's why we looked at them in that way.
I was going to mention that we were on a call with Cava this morning down at the Canada camp, and he kind of joked in a way, but seriously, that he might find that he's away more with Canada this year than he is actually spending time with the Whitecaps. With so many Canadian internationals in the squad, how concerned are you about that depth? And just in general, like how's the recruiting going to kind of add to the squad and add to the depth at the moment?
Yes, your question is very good and very valid, because it is a fact. It's not something that is it's gonna maybe happen. No, it will happen for sure. Now with COVID and what happened in 2020, it really looks like the schedule could be very condensed with international games, and whenever we'll know more from MLS to have an understanding there also. So this is one of the reasons also why we looked at David Egbo very carefully. Can he be a player that could give us that depth in a moment like that? Of course, that a lot of our decisions right now is thinking about that. We're very aware of what's going to happen in the schedule, and we're trying to get ready for it.
Your mind's always obviously always going. You have a lot of downtime here waiting for this season to start. Is there something specific in your coaching mind that you're trying to get together so that when the season starts, you're ready to go? Or is just wondering how you're spending your time as a coach with no team right now?
I'm spending a lot of time in recruiting. That means a lot of hours watching video and watching players that could be a possibility for us. It's every day is games. Every day is watching video of players that come into our radar and are possibility for us. Then it's an ongoing process with the staff on saying if we want to bring this team to a next level, and now we play and now we go about games, are the players that we're signing, guys that fit that, and how can we use them in our team. So this is what our days have been about.
Going back to the two draft picks today, are they both going to occupy an international spot? 'Cause I know you've got 3 available at the moment. Do either of them actually have a green card?
Now, both of them are internationals, but I'll tell you this. There's a lot of work that we're doing to assess our international spots. So I'll help you out. Don't go crazy with the international spots right now.
That's good to know. One for Axel then just now as well. We've talked about this a couple of times on calls that we've been on, but MLS is looking to start this reserve league. There's obviously the issues with border travel and everything for the first team, never mind a reserve team. How is the plans for the club going in terms of having somewhere for the development team, the under-23 guys, to actually play this coming season? Or just like everything else, is it all really just up in the air because of all the COVID situation?
Yeah, I think it's only up to the air because of the COVID situation. There are several options on the table, and we have more or less discussed through every of them and are ready to start with every single option. But of course we have to wait because nobody knows today when we can cross the border and teams can come in to play here. And so we have even more to wait what is possible with our academy players. I think everybody understands that there is no chance for us, or we will not start to participate in the border crossing competition if we cannot get the kids forward and backwards without a quarantine, as they also have to go to school and doing such things. So we have several options. But if you would ask me how the next year will look like, we will not come to the optimal scenario, but we have some plans B, C, and D's that those guys get a few more minutes or more minutes than last year. We're working on that. We have a good group together. We have added one more team to the academy here in Vancouver. So we will continue on our path to give development players, young players, more minutes, and we will respect and have to respect that the COVID still impacts our plans.
In regards to that then, is it really a case when you're negotiating with players at the moment for coming here that you can't really pull the trigger until you know where the team might be playing? Are there players that are holding off to see if you're going to be playing out of Canada, or are there players that have said to you, look, if you're going to be based in the US this year, we're just simply not interested?
Yeah, it is a real issue if you're speaking with family fathers, what we obviously also sometimes do, and they have a wife and kids, and they ask how that looks like. So I know from my own experience that you can be apart from them for months, and it's not the ideal scenario. So of course those questions are coming up. How can my family cross the borders? Are parents allowed to come to the country? What is way difficult right now, for example. So if you a family father have a very small kid and you want your wife to come with you to Vancouver, and then later you want that the parents of your wife come to support her with the kids, if you have to go to the US, for example, there's no real option right now for that. So these are the questions we are really discussing in depth. And then if the player says, I don't feel comfortable to leave my wife somewhere, wherever, Asia, South America, Africa, or Europe, then he wants to know that before, or even more, his wife wants to know that. And you know that decisions are also taken from wives at some point if there are alternatives. So we have really to deal with that, and we just had a very complicated case, and I still hope that we get everything fixed and can announce that. And if we come to this point, I or the player are open to explain you what issues we were fighting with at that point.
if the league and the union come to an agreement soon or whenever for getting back into camp, how long is it then from that agreement do you have to then tell and notify the players and get them in to start pre-season?
I think there are clear rules about the length of the preseason, but also the league is not only looking at that. The league is also looking at protocols to get the players in safe with flights and quarantine, not only for the Canadian teams, also to not bring all the players together in the first minute into a locker room and into showers. So there are a lot of things up in the air, how we handle that. I would say the how quickly we can call them in, it's not I think that's not really the biggest question, because every player knows that will happen at one day. Everybody is prepared for that. So I understand, and we all understand that it will not happen like tomorrow at 9 if you have players in different continents on the world, but it's something that can happen really quick. I think it's more about then to do that again in a safe and secure way with the pandemic going on, with commercial flights and quarantine rules from the league.
He's the gaffer. You can try it on with him. He's the gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's the gaffer. When his back's against the wall, has the answer to it all. He's the gaffer.
So MDS and Axel Schuster there. We're going to just unpack a little bit of what they said there. Now, no surprise. COVID, where the Whitecaps might be playing this year, all of these things are causing concerns, they are causing issues, and players are unsure about coming because they don't know what's going to happen to their families, to their wives, if their wives don't speak English.
Wait, which player has multiple wives?
I think that could be someone we maybe look at signing from RSL, but that's maybe a whole other thing that we'll go into. Personally, one wife is more than enough, I feel.
No. I don't know. Actually, I agree with the one wife, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I asked Axel there, has it caused players to not want to come? And yeah, basically, players are unsure. And I don't blame them for that. And I think that's totally understandable. It's out of the Whitecaps' hands. It's difficult, I feel, for them to negotiate. Yeah, I mean, number 10, we talked about it before that, we'll talk about it now. That is what we're needing badly. It's the missing link, it has been for years, but you look at the squad, and it's a capable squad. There's a lot of good pieces there. We just need this 10. A few other helps around it, a few other upgrades, but definitely that 10. Now, Schuster had indicated to the province at the start of the year when JJ Adams spoke to him that they basically had 3 first choices. It was like a 1A, a 1B, a 1C, and if they landed any one of them, they'd be delighted and it would fit their needs. Now, the rumours that were out there was 25-year-old Portuguese midfielder Chiquinho from Benfica was the guy the Whitecaps had been interested in. He was also linked to Torino in Serie A. A loan deal to Turkey looked to be on the cards. But now it looks like Benfica have taken him off the transfer market till at least this summer. So I think we can say that one's dead in the water. If you've got interest from Torino, though, and Serie A, or even a loan deal in Turkey, would you want to come to MLS and to a Canadian club where, again, who knows what's happening?
No, and Benfica. Yeah, Benfica is in the big 3 in Portugal have done a really good job at bringing on players from Portugal, but also from South America, and bringing players through it's kind of like, you know, if it's one of those like first stops in Europe for players from South America, especially Brazil, obviously, just like Belgium tends to be a hot spot for players coming from Africa, like as a first place they play. And so they've done really well at this, and they do pretty good at scouting and all this kind of stuff. I know the one thing I know about Benfica in terms of playmaker and midfielders who can play a significant role for their team. They have this guy named Thiago Dantas that they let go on loan to Bayern, second team this year, with an option to buy, which is a a really low number compared to what he was at before. So I know that they have sort of they have a lineup of capable players coming through who can impact their midfield. So it's interesting to see that Cinquino is not they might keep him. They might
at least to this summer, because maybe they feel they just need a little bit of depth there. But the new name that came out there this weekend, according to Portuguese outlet, I'm going to murder this, Cis Noticias. Anyway, a Portuguese outlet, let's go with that. It's another 25-year-old from Porto this time, Otavio. He's Brazilian. Now, 17 goals, 45 assists in 166 appearances for Porto. He's valued on transfer market at just shy of $20 million. The Whitecaps have said to have offered him a $5 million signing on fee, $2 million a year salary, and then there was some confusion whether that offer was for a period of time and it's now lapsed, or if he turned him down, or whether that offer was still on the table. I don't know, but it's good to see that they're linked with like a quality player like that. I don't watch Portuguese football. I don't watch a lot of Champions League football. I'm not familiar with him, but looking at his stats, looking at some of his highlights, he's a quality player. And the rumours came out in Portuguese media for both of these guys. So it doesn't look like it's... In the past, the Whitecaps have maybe been... Folk have been suspicious that they've put names out there just to show, oh, look, we're looking at this, we're looking at that, or whatever. This is coming from the Portuguese end, so I don't think that there's smoke without fire here. If that's the quality of player that they're looking at and being linked with, that's positive.
Yeah, no, it is... They've taken it to another level, right? This isn't,
and they have to.
Yeah, this isn't Bobby Leonarduzzi coming out after the fact saying, yeah, we were going to get Didier Drogba. He just wanted to go to Montreal instead, which is something he should have never said at the time he said it, in my opinion. But so, yeah, this is a different level in terms of player they're being actually linked with by seemingly reliable sources. So that's encouraging, but the bottom line is still the bottom line, and they're going to be judged on what they actually bring in, what they actually get done, and how that player performs. So, yeah, I would agree with you. It's encouraging, but it's it's like it's like your parents or whatever calling you from the grocery store thing. They're looking at all this, they're looking at all these options for dinner, and you hear all these things. You're like, oh, those all sound delicious. But it's what your parents come home with for you to eat that is, the going to actually matter. And you're actually
especially my mum with Alzheimer. God knows what she'll come home with. Will she even remember calling me in the first place? It's all a puzzle.
Anyways, maybe that's not the greatest analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, Glass City tweeted out that this is, I don't know where he got this from actually, but he says this is what's on the table for Otavio versus what he's asking for. So Porto, €2 million per season and 25% of his next transfer fee. Milan, I should mention Milan are apparently interested in him as well. They're prepared to pay him €2 million per season and a €1.5 million signing bonus. Whitecaps are offering €1.6 million per season, but a €4.1 million signing bonus, so give him the cash in the pocket now. Otavio, though, seems to be wanting €3 million a year and a $6 million signing bonus.
And this is all after a almost $20 million transfer fee?
I don't think so. No, he's valued on transfer market at 20. So I don't know what he's out of contract in the summer.
Oh, so this is okay. This is a free transfer now.
Yeah,
okay.
But potentially, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure
there's no way if he's free in the summer, no one's paying him for that much money for him in January. So this is to sign a pre-contract. So when his deal is done, he knows where he's going next.
But I mean, at one point on Saturday night, it looked like it was already dead in the water because it looked like the offer had expired or he'd turned him down. But now it seems to be that the offer is still there. We have seen that, though, in the past, that the Whitecaps have left offers on the table. There was the Korean guy that I can't remember who it was that they were interested in. And then, again, it falls down to if you've got a club like Milan interested in you. It's tempting because you're staying in Europe. I guess the Whitecaps are hoping that their tempting thing is give you all this cash in your pocket just now. That's always risky with a player that's never played over here before. I mean, his highlight reel makes him look outstanding, but anyone's highlight reel could make him look like that. He does have the potential, though, to be one of the best players in MLS, and that's not even just exaggeration. He looks that good. It's a mouth-watering idea of having, say, Cavallini up front and Caicedo on one wing, and I've forgotten already, Dahomey on the other. That is an exciting front four. And then just to add to the rumours as well, to make things a bit more exciting, it's been reported in Serbia that the Whitecaps are in talks to sign 23-year-old Serbian midfielder Nemanja Glavcic. He's looks to be with the same agency as Owusu and Ranko. So
what type of midfielder is he?
I think he's a central midfielder, stroke defensive midfielder.
Okay.
I think you would be looking at him and Owusu or him and Bikel as your kind of midfield tandem.
Okay.
I don't know too much about him. I haven't really had a chance to delve too much into what he's doing. Central midfield is what he's under with transfer market.
If he does come from the same agency, it'll be interesting to see if that collective group of people jump on the Whitecaps for dealing with that one agent multiple times for players who have been okay but not like they haven't moved the needle.
Yeah, he's been with Partizan Belgrade before, and he's also played in a couple of other like top level teams in Serbia. I know nothing about him. That was just another one of the rumours that had been put out there by Glass City that he'd found being reported in Serbia thing. But I mean, it's promising that we're looking at this. It's just concerning that other teams are making these additions and we're still waiting to do that. There is no massive rush. We've got to say that though as well. I'd rather we get the right player and get them on the right deal because we don't know when the season's starting. And the transfer market's open here for a long time. If the season starts in March, yeah, maybe there's a little bit more of a rush. If it's not going to start till May, just take your time because who knows who will then be available in May.
Well, Michael, we know the season's not starting at the beginning of March, that's for sure, because there's a six week time frame that the players have to have between reporting and the first game. So
I still think we're
definitely not
May,
the first weekend of March.
No. So I mean, we'll see what happens on that, but it's going back to this thing. There's very little out there that anything that comes out, everyone's jumping on it. We're all like looking and becoming experts on all these guys that we've never heard of before and watching YouTube highlight reels. But some other stuff that did come out of the presser that I didn't put in the audio there. Axel confirmed that Andy Rose is going to be re-signing in some form. He didn't exactly say how. Does make me think he's going to get possibly, say, the reserve team coaching job or something like that and be maybe a backup squad player. I think he's going to be around the club in some kind of coaching capacity. Milinkovic is not coming back. No matter what, he's just not going to come back. I guess if they have to end up buying out, they're going to do that. I do have concerns right now about some of our depth positions because of players being away with Canada. And that's what we're going to look at now in the next part. And we're going to be back chatting about that after this.
Hi, I'm Derek Cornelius, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Sweat stains on bus windows. I don't want to ruin my coat, but that's just the way it goes. Cheer up, you fucking bastard. That's all I heard him say. St George's flag on white van. human race. This is the human race. UKIP and your disgrace. Chopped heads on London streets. All you zombies, tweet, tweet, tweet. This is the human race. UKIP and your disgrace. Chopped heads on London streets. All you zombies, tweet, tweet, tweet.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part is our Artist of the Month for January, English band Sleaford Mods, with a song Tweet, Tweet, Tweet. Because that's basically where we're getting all our transfer rumours just now, from Twitter. It's the best place to get them, and it's fun. That was from their 2014 album Divide and Exit. You can also get it on their 2020 kind of greatest hits compilation, All That Glue. We're going to kind of turn our attention in this part to the wacky world of international football. Now, I touched on it a little bit already. It's been great to see the Whitecaps signing all this Canadian talent. The big downside with that is when the international team's playing, they're away with that team. If you're in a league that honours all the FIFA dates, not so much of an issue. But in these weird times, you've also got a lot of camps and tournaments and other stuff that's outside the FIFA window, no matter anything else. You've also got an epidemic that means that European-based players aren't necessarily coming over to take part in games for Canada and stuff as well. So the Canadian Whitecaps guys are going to be more in demand than before. So there was 5 of them away with Canada at this camp that's just wrapped up in Florida. Cava, Derek Cornelius, Theo Bair, Guti and Maxime Crepeau. They all took part in the camp. They didn't really get the kind of games that they were wanting. They were hoping to play the US on Saturday, but there was a COVID scare in the Canada camp where there was 4 kind of inconclusive results that saw them decide it maybe wasn't safe for this game to go ahead. So instead there's been 2 intra-squad games with the more experienced guys taking on the more inexperienced younger guys. Perhaps worryingly, the younger inexperienced guys won both of those games 1-0. From a Whitecaps point of view though, fantastic. Theo Bair scored in the first game, netting a rebound after Maxime Crepeau had saved a penalty. And then in the game that was just played, the only goal of the game, Derek Cornelius got that one. So looking good from that regard. Now, you can say the young guys are going to be hungrier because they're wanting to kind of impress John Herdman and they really kind of want to get in the senior team mix. So I've seen a few folk kind of concerned by that. I don't think there's any real concern. It's a camp. I'd be more surprised if the young guys hadn't been up for it and were trying to push the senior guys.
Yeah, and remember, this is not the full Canada team.
That
right?
like, as well, yeah.
That's the bigger thing. I mean, I agree with you. This is a concern in both in squad building and in squad building, and then also how MDS chooses to go about setting up his squad and his rotation and stuff. Like it is a big deal because there is at least a possibility. Like when it comes to Canada call-ups, I can't see all 5 of these guys going every time for every match.
No,
but still there could be significant ones, especially Cavallini.
Well, let's look at what's coming up this year.
Yeah.
So for the senior team, you've got 2 World Cup qualifiers in March. Should be 4 in June, assuming we win our group, and assuming all these games go ahead. We have that big caveat. Then you've got the Gold Cup in July. Then there'll be more World Cup qualifying, assuming we go through the first phase, in September, October and November. And then factor in possibly the Olympic qualifiers. We'll come to that in a bit. And that's a busy, busy calendar. It's a concern. Although if you look at what the Whitecaps' first team might be and who the starters are really going to be, I think you might only really be losing Cava and Maxime Crepeau. I'm not sure that the other guys are necessarily going to be the starters.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's where MDS needs to really figure this out and know what he wants to do. Obviously, then there's things like injuries and suspensions play roles in all this too.
Yeah.
And like you said, the match is going ahead. I just want to clarify something, Michael. You mentioned the potential Canada games in November. I don't think the Whitecaps have to worry about that.
Well, we don't know when the season might go on to.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Hey, I'm optimistic with every team making the playoffs this year.
Wait, what?
I don't know. That might happen. That was just a joke. That might be part of the new CBA. Every team makes the playoff. You all get a car.
And you get a playoff. Yeah, no, that's not happening. That would be too many games.
It'll be every team bar 2, and we'll be one of those 2 that don't make it.
Exactly. Or
Cincinnati.
Yeah, the only way that happens is they restructure it, and I don't think they're planning on doing that. But no, they do need to be really careful.
Yeah.
The biggest
it's always been my concern with signing like top quality Canadians, because I do put club above country, as we've discussed before. Even if it was Scotland, I'd still be putting club before country.
Yeah, I put club before country.
I want Canada to do well.
Yeah, I put club before country, but I put Canada before the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yeah,
sure.
I know, but I mean, it's always a concern, and then you could be losing. I think really though, the only other guy you might be losing is Ali to international duty, depending on who we bring in, and I guess you could lose Ranko to Serbia if he starts doing really well.
The one thing you mentioned there, the thing that I'm not most excited, but one of the things I'm excited to see their approach is for Canada is the Olympic thing. Did CONCACAF not give dates now?
Yes, it's taking place in March, the Olympic qualifiers
in Mexico. In
Mexico, Guadalajara, 8 countries in a bubble environment.
Right.
So that, no matter what, should go ahead. The chances of you getting European players to come over for that, I would think, is nil. So you're going to be having a domestic-based squad.
That's unfortunate.
Because I'm pretty sure it's going to be outside a FIFA window. But again, with quarantine and stuff, there was caveats that if a player had to quarantine for a long period of time after being away, clubs didn't have to release them.
Right.
So, I mean, there's all that as well. Whether the Olympics are even going to go ahead. Because there was all that stuff this week. One day it was, then it wasn't, then it was again, then I don't know.
Yeah, where did it land? Because I thought I heard it was off.
Right now, according to Sebastian Coe, Lord Coe, who's on the International Olympic Committee, they expect it to go ahead, but the expectation is there won't be fans there. The population of Japan, I think we touched on this in last week's show, the poll there did not want it to go ahead. No. But if it doesn't go ahead this year, they feel they can't put it on next year, and they can't postpone the next 2 Olympics by a year because there's too much other stuff going on. So it's basically have it this year or you're not having the Olympics.
And then Japan would get like the next open date.
2032 they're looking at, they would maybe get. And there's people in politics in Japan that don't want it to go ahead, but the Prime Minister apparently came out and said he wants it to go ahead. I still think it's too early to even have a decision one way or the other, because everything could suddenly get better vaccine travel-wise come June. We honestly don't know. It all depends on vaccine productions. But likewise, things could be delayed and nothing's better.
Is it supposed to be end of July, beginning of August, or just all August?
I don't know. I think it could be end of July that it kicks off. But yeah, I mean, that's all up in the air. So we don't really know what's happening with that. Everything is up in the air because it still seems a little bit far-fetched for the World Cup qualifiers. We'll get to that in a sec. I want to play a little bit of audio first from Lucas Cavallini. We got a chance to chat with Cava down in the camp in Florida on Thursday. So I'm going to bring you just a little bit of select audio from that just now. Just Cava chatting about all things Canada.
As you said, a lot of new faces. It's a great opportunity for the young talent to showcase their abilities, their willingness to be a part of this national team, to show that they're able to understand what what the national team has to bring, and to understand how John wants us to perform. And I mean, this is a good opportunity. It's a good window for them, being all basically local players, some European players, but just so they get a good sense of how Canada soccer is evolving, and that we're no longer a joke, and we're here to reach our objectives and have good results, and hopefully qualify for a World Cup.
I just wanted to ask you about the importance of having homegrown talent that's playing in the MLS, playing in the CPL, playing in leagues around here, as opposed to maybe scattered all over the world. How important is it to kind of get that homegrown talent and make that kind of the core of this national team?
I mean, obviously, it's always better to maybe learn abroad. Still Canada's developing. It's still developed. It's a developing country, and with soccer, players playing in the MLS. I mean, things are getting better. It's all a process, right? But I mean, it's good for the young players to have an opportunity to become professional footballers. I know my generation was different. I mean, we were forced to go abroad in order to pursue our dreams, make the best out of our careers. So I mean, I'm happy that now there's more opportunities for young players, local players to they don't have to stay home. I mean, stay close to home and try to chase their dreams.
Now, I also wanted to ask you about this year. It's such an important year for the Canadian men's soccer program, with so many things coming up: World Cup qualifying, Olympic qualifying, the Gold Cup. You're going to get a chance to play a lot of games. I guess, how important is it to kind of build from that? Because Canada doesn't usually get a chance to play a lot of games in a year, and now this year it seems like you're going to get a chance to be together for a lot longer than you guys usually are during a year.
Yeah, I mean, this year is crucial for us. If we really want to make it to the big leagues, if we really want to make it to the World Cup, if we want to win a Gold Cup, I mean, this year is crucial for us. I think we're going to be more presenting our national team than we will club level. So, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, guys need to step up their game. There's going to be a lot of international games, and we have to be ready. We have to be competitive, and we have to be ready for each game. I mean, each game is going to be tough, but we're going to be together a lot, so it's going to help us adapt quicker and be ready to compete with anybody.
Last year with the Caps, you didn't go back to the MLS's back tournament because of the COVID concerns. Considering the really busy schedule ahead for Canada, what are your thoughts on all the travel that you might have to do in places where their protocols aren't as stringent as, say, the CSA has in place for your camp in Orlando?
I mean, nowadays I think they've things have gotten. I mean, COVID-wise, obviously cases are worse, but they've tried to manage. They tried to manage these certain obstacles, and I mean, we just got to take it day by day and see what happens. I mean, it is what it is nowadays, so we just gotta cope with COVID and get around these things like we've been doing with this camp and so on. So we'll see how the year unfolds.
Right. Has your attitude changed at all from where it was last year in March?
With the experience of traveling, all that stuff, one has to be careful, always has to take care of themselves. You got to be professional. I mean, if you take care of yourself, then obviously you have a good chance of staying healthy,
We don't know right now, like, when MLS is going to be back. He kind of touched on it there. With so much uncertainty as to what does lie in store this year, how do you keep mentally focused and at the level that you're going to need to be? Because right now, it could be that these games that's coming up in March might be the first time that you're actually playing a competitive game this year. And what's your gut feeling on those games? Do you think that they will go ahead in March?
Yeah, personally, I don't know. I mean, as of today, the games are still going on for the March camp, and hopefully, I mean, if there's so much uncertainty in the air of when we're going to start even preseason with the MLS, at least maybe we can get the boys together for another national team camp before the March camp, and just stay focused, be ready, be competitive, be fit. I mean, that's going to be the main goal right now, because I mean, this year is going to be a big year for us, and especially at international level. I mean, we have to be ready for whatever. I think guys have to push themselves now more than ever, because this is do or die, and no matter what, I mean, if guys are in preseason or not in preseason, we just have to try and maybe stick together. Maybe, as I said, get a camp going before the March game, and we got to be ready.
Obviously, it's a younger group, this camp, but there's still quite a few, veterans, regular first-team players like yourself. How much emphasis has John worked on in training to prepare for those March games with first-teamers like yourself?
I mean, obviously, it's a big window for the newer guys just to start to understand what he expects from the team, and it's just just sort of for us veterans or us guys that are usually on the team. It's just like a review for us. So I know the last time we've been together, it's been for a year, and things are going to get tough. But it's honestly, we usually get together, have Zoom meets during the year. So just to touch base on where we left off. And I mean, we know our roles here on the national team, and I mean, all that's missing is that we get the full team together and keep reviewing on what we left off in. I think it's going to be a really big year for all of us, and obviously the European guys are going to help us a lot just because they've been in season, they haven't stopped, and it's going to be a better for them to come into this camp than us, of course. But then again, we have to be ready and be on our toes and stay competitive like they have been doing, of course.
On this group where there's so many younger players, how are you kind of approaching that role of being a veteran guy that guys are looking up to for advice and mentorship?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good that I get questioned a lot of my insights of advice I can give to the younger guys, like I have with let's say Theo Bear. Theo Bear we talk a lot, especially in the Whitecaps. He's a young guy. He's in this camp as well, and he's in the process as well as to eager to learn more and take advice from older guys such as myself. And just always try to help motivate them, help make them a better player, and things like from my experience that I can help them with. So it's honestly a good feeling sometimes.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby.
So Lucas Cavallini there, talking all things Canada, Canadian national team, just his excitement for the year and what the future holds in store for this young group of talent. And I mean, he was partly joking but partly serious, and asked MDS about this. He feels he's likely to be away more with Canada than actually spending time with the Whitecaps if everything goes ahead. And you're looking at that and you're thinking, he's right, because you've got these World Cup qualifiers, you've got the Gold Cup, you've got training camps, everything that goes with that. But then you've also got a guy that's your designated player, your top striker, missing for maybe half the season. That's an incredible situation to find yourself in.
Well, he missed at least it felt like a third of the season, at least with no MLS is back in suspension last year.
True. I mean, it's a big if that the March games go ahead for me, because as things stand, they're at home to Bermuda on March 25th. Now, I think we can safely say if that goes ahead, Bermuda is not going to be travelling into Canada. So the only way that home game's going ahead is if they play it somewhere like Florida. I can't see Canada hosting a game because you'd be needing Bermuda to fly in and quarantine beforehand.
Right. Yeah.
So unless that dramatically changes all of a sudden, I can't see that going ahead in Canadian soil. But then they're away to the Cayman Islands 3 days later, which would have been a fantastic trip for us at AFTN. We could go and visit our money and all the offshore accounts that we've got. And it would have been great. But like in all seriousness, this group would have been a great holiday for the Voyageurs to go to any of the games that we've got, because, I mean, you're away to Aruba in June. I mean, what a fantastic trip that would have been. I genuinely would have fancied going to one of those games, just as a little trip. It would have just been a magnificent thing. I can't see the March ones going ahead, but if they do go ahead, you're in the situation that the MLS guys might not have kicked a ball in anger in MLS, and then they're going to play a really, really important couple of games in World Cup qualifying.
Yeah, and that's one of the ways that what the camp that just happened, and if these games do take place before the MLS season, it could, in essence, help the Whitecaps for part of the season in terms of getting players, more training and match fit.
Yeah. They'd surely have to have another big camp, though, before those two. If MLS doesn't start, they have to have a camp before those two games to get the players up to speed.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a camp, but yeah, they might need to be in a few days earlier or a week earlier or something.
I mean,
depending on quarantine and where they're going and all
there's
that.
A bit, I don't think I put it in the Cava audio there, where Cava says this camp has really helped him get up to match sharpness. So when he gets into the Whitecaps camp, he feels he's going to have a step ahead of a lot of the other players in MLS because he's had this camp under his belt.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, that only helps if MLS gets underway in March. If it doesn't, then it maybe doesn't help that much. But it is very valid. You're then looking, June 5th, we're away to Aruba, then at home to Suriname 3 days later. Then, assuming we win our group, you're playing the Group E winner, which is probably Haiti, on June 12th and June 15th. So that's 4 games kicking off at June that I'm pretty sure the Whitecaps are going to have matches in June. And especially if the season starts late, we're definitely probably going to have 2 games a week at that point. It's all going to get a little bit messy. I mean, I asked, we'll hear from Jonathan Osorio in a bit. I asked him this, I asked Cava this. What's your gut feeling about these games in March? Do you think they would be going ahead? I say no.
I mean, in this moment right here, right now, it's hard to see them happening. Or I think the 2 things that are going to happen. One is they don't happen, or 2, CONCACAF knows that these games are not going to have the best players available, but they have to force them to go through anyways. And so they happen with like B or C squads.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that would make sense is to have a bubble thing in Florida again, and every single country in a group flies into there. Logistically, it's a bit of a nightmare. It's also very expensive. Then you look at countries like Bermuda and Aruba. Are they going to just think to themselves, what's the point? It's like, we're not going to win these games. Should we be shelling out all this money at a time like this? So unless CONCACAF pay for it all, I don't know. And you've got players flying in from wherever, and as you say, B and C squads.
Yeah, the financial part of this is significant, but I don't think I don't know if we'll get told how that breaks down, whether it's the federation's paying for it or CONCACAF covering it. But CONCACAF wants to get it done as safely and as much as possible so that they can ideally continue to move the ball forward for World Cup qualifying and all the other things they have going on.
The thing that makes me also think the March things might not go ahead is the CONCACAF Champions League that was meant to kick off in February is now pushed back to April, which also gives Forge and TFC a lot more time to try and finally get this game in beforehand. But the fact that that's going ahead in April and not March as well makes you think, they're thinking March might not be good.
The other thing is, like, I don't know about you, Michael, but I don't know how this is going to work out for MLS teams and their schedule or whatever, but I would much rather see the Gold Cup gone this year and these Olympic qualifying games happening over the summer than having a Gold Cup, because the Gold Cup is not as important, and especially to me it's devalued with no Confederations Cup anymore. With
Qatar being in it,
and there's that. Yeah, so there's lots of reasons why it would be fine if that went away. But.
Yeah, I've never been that excited by the Gold Cup, but I think it's primarily because it's usually just the US and Mexico that walk away with it. So it's It doesn't hold my interest.
No, but like for me, honestly, competition-wise, if there's three things, if there's World Cup qualifying and Gold Cup and Olympic qualifying, of those three, the one that is the least important is obviously Gold Cup.
Yeah,
to me.
but we've talked before how important Olympics is for exposure and experience
yeah.
for these young guys. And
Totally.
like any of these under 20, like if Canada can get to the Olympics on the men's side, because obviously it's just a given almost at the moment on the women's side, but on the men's side, to get some of these guys that experience and to play against some of the top players in the world, and I think you can have a couple of overage players and stuff in as well. I mean, what that would then do for this group of players for the 2026 World Cup, it would be immense. But talking of such things and golden age and young players and stuff, I want to play a little bit of audio now from another senior, he's 28 now, player in the Canadian camp, Jonathan Osorio from TFC, good friend of Cava. Here's a little bit of what he had to tell us when he spoke to media on Wednesday.
Not everybody is in this January camp because it's not a FIFA window, as you know, but a lot of young talent, some making their first appearance in Canadian colours are there. Could you give us overall your sense of the young talent that you've seen that could feature both in our Olympic and senior team?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys here that, will be available for either team. I know some young players are actually probably making their case of being full time with the men's, and it's great to see. There's new faces that I'm familiar seeing at Toronto FC, and all are very talented. All are very good players. The development of young players keeps improving in this country. I know. Every year there's just more and more players, and the standard that they're coming in, the level that they're coming into camp with is probably much higher at which of the players in the past, and that just goes a long way with showing how much Canada soccer and its youth development has come in the last years. Very exciting players, very, very exciting players, players that belong on the pitch with the veteran players and all the better players, and they're showing that in trainings every day. And I think the association should be very, very excited about this Olympic qualify and also for the future that is to come, and the near future as well. I think these young players are making a case, like I said, to be a part of the full men's team as well.
I wanted to ask you about World Cup qualifying. I know this, if anything came out of this pandemic, is the fact that you guys are going to be able to qualify on the field. I know it's going to be a long road, but you don't have to worry about qualifying points. You don't have to worry about things like that. Can you just give me a thought on the World Cup qualifying process now that you will be able to decide it on the field and you don't have to worry about ranking points or anything like that going forward?
Yeah, of course. I think it's the right way of doing things. It's the fair way of doing it. I think the point process was a little bit complicated and a little bit unfair in a sense. I think always, these things should be earned on the field. Being able to qualify for tournaments and things like that. Everything should be decided on the field because that's the way the game is. And obviously we're happy. We're happy with the change and everything. It's a long road. We have a long road, but I think we like that. We like that we're getting more games for ourselves and come together as a team and grow as a team and get better. As we go into the more and more important games, and with our eyes, obviously, qualifying each stage. And for me, of course, it just makes sense. It's better for everybody, not only us, but for, I think, the other nations as well. And it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. These nations all have a chance, and we're going to have to be going into places that are very hard to play in, but we are prepared for that. We are aware of the path that it takes to make the World Cup, and we're just excited to get going.
Neil asked you about young players, and there are, like, you're right, there's just an incredible pool of young players. That makes me think about you and Marc Anthony and some of the veteran players on this team. You're not old by any stretch, but I'm just curious with you and Marc Anthony and some of the veterans on this team, if Atiba maybe doesn't come back, what's kind of your message or your goal or the thing that you want to stress to these young players as you kind of take on more of a leadership role through 2021?
It's a good question. I think, we're trying to instill that confidence in them that, what we're building here in Canada is something that, maybe hasn't really been done. We're trying to not only set ourselves for, near future success, be a nation that is to be reckoned with in the world of football for years to come. And I think what I would stress to them is that it's a long road, but there's no better day than today to start working towards that. And I just don't want these young players to waste any days. I think they should strive to be on the men's team right now. I think they should, obviously with a lot of them are going to have their eyes on the Olympic qualifying and things like that, which they should. But I think also they need to try and work every time they have a chance to perform in front of the coach, John. They have to try and show him that they're ready to play on the men's team now, and to try and, put yourself in a situation that you're going to be remembered for a long time. And so that's what I would stress. I think for us too, these games, it's big opportunities for them to be able to be a part of, such a, amazing group of young players in Canada coming up. So there's a lot of hype. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure with that, and I do want them to be prepared for that. But that pressure is good. I think that pressure is good. That pressure is something that they should embrace and want to invite. And I think they should be excited. So for them, I just want to stress that, it's going to be a long road, but there's no better day than to start working for that than today.
This year, the footballing calendar, it looks just packed on an international level, also at club level as well. But there's also so many unknowns still at the moment. As a player, how do you keep yourself in the right mental mindset? Because we could even be looking at the games that come up for Canada might happen before the MLS season kicks off. And what is your gut telling you? Do you feel that these games are going to go ahead in March?
I mean, my gut feeling is they will. They will find a way to make it work. For me, my mind is prepared for that. My mind is set on that. And should anything change, then I will adapt to that. I think as a player in this day, during these times, you have to be prepared for everything, and prepared to be able to play a 90-minute game tomorrow at any time. And so, the uncertainty is tough. It's tough on the mind, and it's tough mentally. But as professionals, you have to be ready no matter what. And I think, those things you can't control. All you can control is, you being fit and ready and doing all the things that you can do so that when the time comes, you're ready to perform for Canada and your club. And so, for me, it's about always being ready, always being motivated. The motivation is to make the World Cup, and I will always think about that every day. So that's going to keep me going every day, even not knowing when these games will happen or if they'll happen. For me, as far as I know, there will be games in March, and myself and everybody else, I think will definitely be ready for that.
Dave, for the senior team some 8 years ago in 2013, Is it possible to kind of sum up the difference in the teams between you walking in the door then and when you did for this January camp? I imagine it's totally different group and vibe.
For sure, very different from the group that I came into. It was in March 2013. Much different, much more competitive. A lot of players, playing at good clubs, playing at a high level, and playing at their clubs regularly. I think that's a huge difference. I think before we had a lot of players that would come in. They were coming in because obviously they had a club and maybe they're at a good club or whatever, but they weren't playing regularly. But the pool wasn't that big 8 years ago as it is now, and the competitiveness now that it is to get into the national team. It's tough, and I love it. I wish it was like this 8 years ago, to be honest. But I'm happy with the way it is now. I'm very excited. The development, like I've said, has come a long way in this country, and it shows every time, every January camp. It gets better. I'm part of a better team in January. This team is better than the team that I was a part of last January, and last January was better than the January before that. So it's great. It's great to see. I think I was mentioning that actually with a few of the guys, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see, and super exciting to be a part of as well.
Kind of the same lines of the talent of this country is producing now. It seems to have, with yourself and a lot of the younger players coming up, it seems to be kind of a golden generation of talent. Is it important to kind of make the most of this talent moving forward and trying to get this country in the Olympics, trying to get this country in the World Cup, trying to be competitive in the Gold Cup? How important is it to have success with this amount of talent on the team right now?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I think you can only call it a golden generation. You call these generations a golden generation based on their results and based on what they accomplish. And so, yes, we have a lot of talent, but it's only a golden generation if we qualify for Olympics, if we do well in the Olympics, if we qualify for the World Cup, do well in the World Cup, if we do well in the Gold Cup, fight to win the Gold Cup. I think then at that point you can call it a golden generation. We're still trying to find our make an imprint in world football and in CONCACAF and in the world. We're still developing as a team. We have now the talent there, so of course we can't waste it. We know this. We're well aware of this, but we're more excited about it than anything. It's not really a pressure to get results. It's more of a excitement that these things are possible now. These things are not out of reach, and they're kind of expectations. That's I think that's what we're trying to grow Canada to become, is to become a country in football that's expected to be at the World Cup every 4 years, a country that's expected to fight for the Gold Cup every time. A country that's fighting to go to the Olympics every time. Country to have. It comes with actually accomplishing those things. So, yeah, this year is huge for that, I think. And I think once we start accomplishing those things, then we can recognize this maybe as a golden generation, or start to see it as a norm, which is, I think, which should be the objective. Is now all this talent coming up, we want it to become a norm and not really seen as, oh, this is going to be the golden generation of Canada. More like we want it to be seen as, this is what Canada produces. This is Canada soccer on the world stage. So there's a long way to go, but it's definitely now people can see it now, and like I keep saying it, it's super exciting.
Jonathan, just to kind of, I guess, follow on from something Neil asked a couple of minutes ago, going back to what the squad was like when you first came into it and what it is now, the whole kind of footballing landscape in Canada has also changed considerably since you made your debut from Canada all those years ago. When you look at the rise of TFC, there's a league now in Canada, there's Canadian players playing at the top level overseas. How do you look back at that growth, and what do you think? I mean, folk talk about the golden generation. What do you think has led to that happening at this point?
Well, I think obviously it's the putting the right people in place to make those changes, to strive to make the necessary decisions on how and what needs to be done. You know, is people, you know, now getting that experience to see how it is overseas in Europe or in South America, and see what are the common denominators of those countries that make them so successful. And I think Canada is now gaining knowledge of how it works, of the development from youth, from the grassroots up to the men's. So now we have that knowledge of how to do it, I think, and what needs to be done and how these players improve. Now we have a league. We have a league of our own, so there's more opportunities for kids now. I think there's more opportunities for more players to be playing professionally and be in a professional environment and to improve every day. You know, those things weren't available. Those resources weren't available 8 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And it's normal. I think we're a little bit late. Canada is a young country when it comes to world football. We're very young, very, very young. You know, we're a little bit behind the other countries as far as experience and things like that. But we are gaining knowledge every day, sending coaches to do licenses overseas and things like that. So things are being done the right way in the world. And I think helping this country grow, and even the mentality of the country's changing, and the players, coaches, everywhere. All those things are helping the country develop, I think, and you know, as long as we keep on this path, there's, you know, the sky's the limit for Canada soccer, because there is a lot of talent in this country, a lot of talent, and so we need to find a way to allow as much talent as possible to grow to its potential.
Jonathan Osorio there. A lot of good stuff from him. I used a lot of his presser there because he spoke about a lot of good things. He feels the sky is the limit for Canada. There's a lot of potential. Everyone's talking about this being a golden generation, but it's only that golden generation, he says, if they actually go and do it on the pitch and get results. Otherwise, it's just another group of potential and talented players that haven't then lived up to what's expected of them.
Yes, that's true in one sense. The thing that's different about this group is that collectively they might not achieve, but individually both they're achieving on the pitch and they're achieving in the transfer market. So you hope they keep going in those ways, even if somehow they don't click for 2022. Although obviously I hope they click for 2022 and the Olympics as well.
Yeah. But a lot of good stuff there from Jonathan Osorio. Hope you enjoyed that. We are going to move away from the national team stuff now, get back to club football, and we're going to be looking at some stuff from around MLS and have a little bit of fun with some predictions for you. And we're going to be back with all of that after this.
Hi, I'm Kekuta Manneh. You're listening to AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's a world exclusive. Or we think it's a world exclusive. That was the New Royal Family with a song, an unreleased song, called I'm Only Happy, which was given to us by lead singer David Barnett, him of Anyone Fancy a Chocolate Digestive fame, and of course from our Christmas special, if you listen to that. He sent me a couple of New Royal Family songs that hadn't been released, and he doesn't think that song has actually been played anywhere. They recorded it for what was going to be an album that never came out, so that could be a world exclusive. I'm only happy when... ... watching football. That's one of the things. I wouldn't say I'm only happy when I'm watching football, but most of the time,
I was going to say you are. I've often seen you disgruntled, angry.
Yeah, maybe that was a really bad idea. Maybe I'm never happy when I'm watching football. Actually, when I look back at it, that's just the teams I pick.
Let's just go over East Fife, the Vancouver Whitecaps, Wimbledon, West Ham. Who else?
Yeah,
Scotland.
Scotland. Yeah, I'm never happy watching football. Yeah, let's just scrub that from their record. Let's just move on with this part. We're going to be chatting some MLS in this part, and we talked last week about the brewing battle between the league and the players again. We talked about what Don Garber had said to media, select media, not ourselves. We played you some audio last week from Bob Foose, which got a lot of good downloads, actually. I think a lot of folk were really interested in that, had a lot of good feedback on that. And then things were just going along and didn't think any more of it. But then, just before the draft, Don Garber released a letter. I don't know what he was trying to achieve from the letter. It kind of really only made things worse. Did you see the letter, Zach?
Yeah, I saw in the notes here. I thought I misread it, that you said Donnie G's letter was daft. But it says Garber's letter before the draft.
Yeah. But yeah, you are right. His letter was daft.
It was just it was frustrating. I mean, if you listen to the episode last week with Bob Foose and stuff, and him talking about how in previous years they both sides were intentional about not negotiating through the media. Garber's comments before the letter were that very thing. Based on Foose's response or interaction with it, saying these are things that Garber's doesn't know what he's talking about in terms of the 30 days and and so this letter felt like a continuation of that. It felt like them putting out there, them just trying to spin things to make it sound good. There's very little. There's very little in terms of substance and content and numbers in there.
It was like they wanted to get the message out because they felt that what he said to the media hadn't been widely enough reported, and everyone had picked up on the Union side. So it's like, oh, we need to get this out to more of the general fans. They'll back us. Yeah,
and most of the responses I saw weren't really backing them.
Yeah,
but no, it just felt, him. I know he has to, and it's spinning and trying to shape things, but calling, even though I know it sounds like it might move this way, calling extending the deal 2 years fair is just mind-boggling to me. And if the players accept that, that's a big mistake for the future players of this league.
It was like passive aggressive, because it's like, oh, the players, they gave up so much. I was really grateful to them. They were really good, but they're not doing what we want at the moment. And then stressing that they're getting 100% of their salaries this year.
What a joke.
They're putting that out there clearly so that the general members of the public would read that and go, what the hell are the players complaining about then? They're getting all their salary, because they're not thinking long term. And no one's really delving into the long term thing. And the footballing landscape should change drastically after the World Cup in 2026, you would think. So, I mean, the players are right to kind of like look after their thing. And it's all like protecting the long-term stability of the league by providing an opportunity to earn back some of that financial loss in the future. And then, like you, we're all eager to begin the 2021 season this coming March. No, I'm quite happy for it to be delayed, to be totally honest. I liked that was released, and then the Twitter of the Players Union were like, at us next time.
Yeah, I saw them.
The two parties have had a meeting on Friday, and the union has put their counter proposal now to the league. And I guess we're just waiting to see how the league deal with that.
I heard, I don't know if this was from the league or from someone who in the know or whatever, but I heard someone say that a part of the counter proposal, the players were accepting the 2-year extension.
I don't know. I didn't see that.
Okay.
I really surprised. If that is the counter proposal, then they're obviously wanting other stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see. I think it's good that the union didn't put their counter proposal out there in public and play it all out in the public, because they shouldn't be.
No.
Yeah. We'll see what the next week brings, I guess. I mean, it's hard to really predict what is going to happen in Major League Soccer this year, what's going to happen in the Canadian Premier League this year. We do know David Clanahan's talked about hoping that the season's going to start mid-May, the Victoria long weekend.
Yeah.
I'd love that to be the case, with the way that the rollout is going, and you see on Friday when they announced what was happening in BC and like who's going to be getting the injections whenever. I mean, from the rollout there, I look to be getting my vaccine end of July into August. And I'm in my early 50s. So you're looking at the general population that could be looking at August into September. So I think it's hard to see fans back anytime this year, I think. But if we can get some games in, if we can get a season going in CPL, I think that would be great.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, CPL, that is one thing. The MLS in their situation, obviously there's going to be some states where they're going to make whatever decisions they make, right?
Well, yeah, I flicked on to watch CTV News at 6, and it wasn't on because it was the American football, and it was Kansas City and Buffalo, and it was in Kansas, and I'm just looking at all those people in the stadium, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
How full was it? Was there any social distancing?
Oh yeah, I mean there was social distancing, and they were using both tiers, and there was lots of gaps in between them. It just makes me uncomfortable just seeing crowds. But I'm watching a lot of UK shows that were recorded before the pandemic. They seem to do a lot of my favourite like panel shows and big batch recordings in like January before all this was done. You're watching it and you're seeing audiences all close together, and you're like, oh, that just looks so weird. Folk hugging each other, contestants shaking hands, and it's like, ah.
Yeah, you definitely know when they were shot.
Yeah, it's going to take a bit of getting used to again, like seeing crowds and jumping about and folk close to each other in stadiums still just looks weird to me. Of course, as an East Fife fan, seeing crowds in a stadium just looks weird at the best of times. But I put a thing out on Twitter. It's a little bit of fun for this show to get some predictions for the season. Mm-hmm. And I wanted folk to give us a Whitecaps prediction, a MLS prediction, and a CPL prediction. So I'll give you mine. My Whitecaps prediction is the Whitecaps will not get their number 10 that they're out to get. They might get a guy that can play a number 10, but he's not going to be their number 10.
So just to clarify, when you say that, you're saying they're not getting 1A, 1B, or 1C?
Yes.
Do you think they'll publicly admit that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it might not be a traditional out-and-out number 10 that they get, and it'll be spun that, oh, this guy can play a 10, something like that. Yeah. But when we were joking about...
the pessimist.
But when we're joking about things falling through, I tweeted a GIF from Plan 9 from Outer Space. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Oh, it's so terrible. It's so good. But then I thought, I haven't watched that for years, and I found it on Amazon Prime. So instead of working on stuff last night for the show, I found myself watching Plan 9 from Outer Space again. If you have never seen it, you've got to check it out. It is so badly shot. They had budget issues and they didn't have permits for filming. So you've got scenes. Half the scene is shot in daylight, half is shot in nighttime, and they're talking to each other. And one character is in the sun and one character is at night.
What year is this from?
Late 50s.
Oh, okay.
You've got people that had put money into the film that were giving acting parts, and you can't understand what they're saying because they don't even speak very good English.
Is this British?
No, it's American. It's an Ed Wood film. Don't know if you've ever seen the film Ed Wood. Oh, I love Ed Wood films. I've got a lot of them on VHS. I've got a lot of them on DVD.
Do we need to now go over a list of crimes and misdemeanors?
It's like, check it out. Anyway, I've got sidetracked. My MLS prediction is Frank Lampard will be sacked by Chelsea. Ronnie Delia will get sacked by NYCFC. Frank Lampard will have taken over NYCFC by the end of this season. And my CPL prediction is there will be some kind of organisation below the CPL involving League One Ontario, Quebec, and a BC, maybe even Western Canada Development League. They'll all be under an umbrella in a kind of Canadian Premier League Development League, a kind of PDL of the CPL, to get these players and opportunities for these clubs to develop with an eye to maybe moving up a level later on.
That's your best shout of the three, I think. Well, actually, no, with the Whitecaps not getting a 10 row.
Yeah, that could be a good one. So what would your predictions be before we get to some of our listeners' tweets?
Yeah, I mean, with the Whitecaps, my prediction would be that they... I want to stay consistent with last year, so I'll say they don't. Whatever happens, they don't make the playoffs. That would be my for them. For MLS, my prediction would be, well, before the rumors I was hearing on Friday, I would have said that there's going to be a work stoppage of some kind, but now I'll say with MLS is going to let in a number that we feel is ridiculous for a number of playoff teams, and. And for CPL, I'm going to say CPL is going to be the most engaging and exciting season so far.
Oh, that's interesting. How would you see them doing that?
With the CPL?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. It could be a number of ways. It could be even like the whole season is no fans, and then the cup or the playoffs or whatever or something at the end is all fans because it's in October and they can. And people are vaccinated or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll get a full season in CPL.
They'll get a season.
I know. I was just saying,
20 to 30 game season, and then having like a either a single or double knockout like tournament or home and away cup thing at the end of the year.
I'd like some bubble tournaments once I've had my vaccine, so I can go to them. And I wouldn't mind going to PEI because seriously considering moving there. I've actually been doing genuine research as to possibly moving there. We were meant to go there, I've spoken about this in the show before, on holiday in 2019. It's all going into one. And the research I did, I loved the place. It just looked my kind of place. So it's a possible retiral place that we are looking at.
You know there's lots of snow there, right?
I don't mind the snow.
Okay.
As I said, I like pissing in the snow.
I think most people would have figured you more of a Nova Scotia kind of guy, but yeah, PEI.
I think the weather in Nova Scotia is a lot worse than PEI from what I can gather.
Really?
Not a lot, but it's worse. PEI doesn't look as bad as Nova Scotia.
They're out there in the middle.
I'd rather stay in BC, just affordability wise, like what I could get and what I can buy and stuff out there compared to what I could buy in the island here or something.
And now with Zoom, we can do the show like this.
If I can do an East 5 podcast, #1 rated East 5 podcast in the
You're
world.
also the #1 East 5 blog, right?
Yes. It's amazing. Even after my 2-year hiatus, I came back and I was still #1. Let's get to some of the readers' predictions. Daniel Wynn, for his Whitecaps one, says the Whitecaps don't get their ideal attacking mid. This is going to be a trend in these predictions. For MLS, Inter Miami fires their head coach at the end of 2021.
Phil Neville?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Phil Neville in a little bit. And for the CPL, Ottawa folds and is replaced by a team in Quebec. I think we'll get a team in Quebec. I'm not sure about Ottawa folding.
Well, did you hear about how Ottawa is the only team that didn't get federal funding?
No.
Because they were like a new organization or something. All the other teams apparently got some kind of federal money, like businesses got in Canada, or you could apply for it. But apparently Ottawa didn't qualify, I think because of their newness or something like that. And
that would be something that would make possibly their parent company decide to pull out if it was another difficult year. Interesting.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen as much as I don't like what the Fury, a number of things about the Fury from the preceding years.
Yeah.
I kind of hope it's not another whole soap opera for some of the supporters over there.
I think you'll like this. Just a Whitecaps prediction, this one from Dennis at Den_Moraine. The Whitecaps say they will sign some significant players in the transfer window after the next. TJR, his Whitecaps won. The Caps finish as the best Cascadian team. MLS, Columbus win the Supporters' Shield but don't make the MLS Cup. And for CPL, 2 new teams are announced, one in Quebec and one off either Saskatchewan or BC. All very likely, I think. Well, maybe not the Caps finishing as best in Cascadia, but the CPL one is definitely likely. Aaron Campbell, our good friend and former writer at AFTN. The Whitecaps won't give Baldissimo the minutes he deserves. LAFC will continue to dominate during the season, but flop in the playoffs. And Pacific FC will top the league table. There's a few, actually, a lot of Pacific fans in this. Mike at Victoria Gunner says the Whitecaps will be rotating keepers each and every match. Diego Valeri will win the MLS Player of the Year award, and Pacific will make the North Star Shield final, but Forge will not make the playoffs. Indeed. Rick Halland, Whitecaps play some home games, just not in our stadium. Ronaldo signs with Miami, the Brazilian one. Oops. And we get...
Oh, I get no. Did you get that? It's a joke.
I
It's
didn't.
like they signed Ronaldo, but it's old fat Ronaldo.
Oh, I read Ronaldo and I actually thought of the old Ronaldo. I didn't even think of the current one. That's why I was confused. And the CPL one is we get Island Games Part 2. Fingers crossed for that, and that I can go to. Because I have some WestJet dollars that run out in September and I really need to spend them. And right now I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm on the vaccine. Fort McMurray FC Edmonton supporters, so this might give you an idea. Canadian Premier League clubs invite the 3 Canadian MLS clubs for the season because of COVID restraints. Canadian fans rejoice and enjoy the best season ever. There you go. That's how it's the best season ever, Zach. The Whitecaps are in the CPL.
They get crushed.
I could see that happening. Not too many more. Angus Walker, Whitecaps will buy players we stupidly think will be better than last year but fail to make the playoffs again. MLS, the reputation the Whitecaps have amongst their fans. MLS ignores the pleas of Whitecaps supporters begging for the club to be sold to someone who gives a damn. And a Canadian Premier League side knocks the Whitecaps out of the Voyageurs Cup again. I just hope there's a Voyageurs Cup, proper Voyageurs Cup. I'm not hopeful. I am quite pessimistic about this year, I've got to say.
Yeah.
Our good friend Naveed Masinchi. The Caps won't get the playoffs and they get rid of MDS. Kekuta Manneh, who we'll be talking about soon, will play a major role and do well in Austin. And in the CPL, Bustos will destroy the league and get transferred to a higher level team. Back to MLS maybe. Greg Petrie, the Whitecaps sign a player who is not a 10, but they say can also play a 10. He cannot play a 10. First time in 6 seasons, neither Seattle or Portland make the MLS Cup final. And the CPL plays more than last year, but not a full season of 28 games. 2 more. CD Pryor, Caps win the Cascadia Cup, but the cup is not awarded. The MLS agreement with players results in a 1-year extension of the current CBA. I could see that as the compromise. CPL takes a step back with one team folding. And also one soccer disappears. It's going to be tough for some of these CPL teams, funding-wise. I do worry. Not even just in CPL, but in America, for USL, NPSL, stuff like that. it's a lot of worrying times, I think, for these small
I'm looking
teams.
forward to some hopefully good CPL news in the next few weeks. But
yeah, fingers crossed.
we'll see,
We've got a draft coming up on Friday.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the draft.
Oh.
I'm hoping for some other CPL news. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, have you got some inside info that you can't share?
No.
Oh.
I have no inside information right now.
And the last one is from a good friend, Peter Zimmerman, who his friend Dim was like, oh, you're so funny. And he's like, I'm being serious here. And these are, for Whitecaps, BC Place opens up the upper levels for a regular season match, but only for a 20,000 sellout. I think they would need to open the upper levels, really, if they want to get fans in. And we're probably still looking August, September, October, maybe. The MLS playoffs is expanded to 16 teams. I could see that as well. And this is the one that, you'll love this one. Pacific FC becomes an affiliate for the Whitecaps as a new South of Fraser CPL team is announced. Aren't they already technically an affiliate of the Whitecaps with all the former Whitecaps players they sign?
No.
Joke. If the Pacific FC fans can get really upset about a name of a stadium, don't upset them. But thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed. I love getting all the feedback from our listeners. It was a very popular feedback section. But talking about a few things that came out of that, just to round off the show, some MLS news. Kekuta Manneh has signed for Austin. He's going home, Zach. He's going home. Not a surprise.
No.
But is Kekuta up to MLS level?
Well, no, I think he can play a role, but he's not going to be your week in, week out starter. So him returning there is
I'm delighted for him. He's got his family there.
For him. But there's a story we need to tell about this. I know we talked, you and I, before about doing maybe an Austin show in the off season. So hopefully, I have a guest we need to get on to tell like that story from a person kind of on the ground
from the Aztecs' point of view.
Yeah, who's gone through some of the horrors that they've gone through, and now is hopefully going to get to be a part of some of the excitement that happens.
I'd love to get them on the show.
Yeah, but Kekuta,
and Matthew McConaughey. Just throw that out there too.
Oh yeah,
just in case he's listening.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that's the main reason I'm going on all these Austin calls. They get to know me. I get in. I'm like, Matthew, my wife's just read your book.
Has she?
She just read it. She loved it. She said it was fantastic. She's not really one for like autobiographies and stuff, but she really
I saw him promoting
it.
I haven't read it though.
He seems a really nice guy actually, and he's been through a lot. But yeah, Scooter going there. This is surely his last chance to be a.
Was his contract
player.
just up in Columbus? Was he like a free agent or
he did nothing there really, and didn't do much in Cincinnati, and I think it's not a risky signing in that you kind of know what you're getting.
Yeah.
I worry his best days are behind him, but maybe this is what he needs to
How
rekindle.
old is he now?
I mean, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to say 27 or 28, but let's just check.
Yeah, it's on like
26.
again.
He's still just 26.
So again, people went on and on about Robbo's approach to management and dealing with players and stuff, or whatever. But Kekuta Manneh was arguably a player who his best time as a professional was in Vancouver with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, obviously, Martin Rennie also played a role in that. But so like there was a lot that they did right. Or there was a lot in this is an example of how they dealt with a player, I think, really, really well. And they did some good things to help him progress. It's just unfortunate. Like he's one of those players where I think, so this is just my take on things, is that as anyone in your job or whatever, you can get distracted by outside things. They can become distracting or take away your focus or usurp your energies. And I think, I think that's part of the Kekuta Manneh story.
Yeah.
Because he
a young
talents.
guy.
He definitely has talents.
Yeah. A young guy, a footballer, good looking guy, doing young guy stuff goes off the rails a little bit. Yeah, he didn't help himself here with a few things like his timekeeping.
Yep.
Stuff like that. It's a lot of it's immaturity.
Yep.
And he is just 26. It's like he's still
26. Yeah. Oh my. He's so young. Not young, but
if this unlocks him, I'll be delighted for him because I really like Scooter. We'll get him on the show. Like I was joking, obviously, about the Austin stuff. I've actually really enjoyed going on their calls because I'm still fascinated by like new clubs launching because I come from a country where it's all old established clubs, but to actually start a club from scratch, and I know the way they got it isn't great, but it fascinates me seeing these clubs start.
The way this team is starting isn't great. I agree with you, but again, there's a bigger story that we need to talk about.
And they've done so much right, and they've got the naming rights of their stadium on Monday. I like their jersey design. I like their crest.
They're sold out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, their logo is a circle and a tree, right?
Yeah, I really like it.
I'll tell you a story when we're done this about something that makes me think of.
Well, at least it's not a snowflake. But apparently, actually, neither is Montreal's, because let me read you this. Daniel Wynn, who is from Montreal, he got in touch with us. He listened to the show last week, said it was a great podcast. He agrees with our overall feeling regarding the rebranding mess, but he wanted to let us know a few things, which was fantastic stuff. I tweeted this out. So he is at VKDWin on Twitter. So first of all, no soccer or football club in French-speaking European countries is using the acronym CF, let alone Club de Foot. They usually use football club or FC for the name. CF is more commonly used in the Spanish-speaking countries, like Real Madrid or Tigres, things like that. So, because we were wondering, is there any other French sides that do that? So, no. No business can officially use the name Olympique, as it is an IOC trademark. So, I did not know that. While clubs such as Olympique de Marseille, Olympique Lyonnais and Olympiacos probably have an exemption, probably used it, I guess, before the trademark and stuff as well, changing the name of an existing club now to Olympique would lead to any sports organisation facing legal issues by the IOC.
That makes sense.
The fact like Inter Milan can sue Inter Miami for using the word Inter.
Isn't Inter Milan like officially trying to change their name from Internazionale de Milan to Inter Milan?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I heard that they're trying to, officially change it to just Inter.
Ah, interesting. I don't like that. It should be Internationale.
Yeah.
And the last one, which is the interesting one about the snowflake. During French radio interviews, Montreal Crest's creator, Justin Kingsley, mentioned that the crest does not represent a snowflake. The idea of doing the marketing around the snowflake is based on a comment made by an MLS executive who thought it looked like a snowflake. So I said, so what is it then? What is it meant to be? What did they say? And he said, some gibberish about representing the city of Montreal with the M's and the arrows.
Oh, yeah. No, I think they did say that in the thing. But here's and they did mention the comment from MLS in the.
Someone else did say it's Olympics logo and famous metro, so that it's tied in with that. But it isn't officially. It is not a snowflake.
But then why did that one guy talked about being a snowflake like on the thing?
Yeah.
I just think as a response to the Twitter stuff from the day before, or whatever. So they did not look like it came off not good in that whole thing. Like they put something out, it got leaked, they heard the criticism, and they tried to defend the criticism the next day, which made
they should just have said,
even weaker.
I know you think this is a snowflake, it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And instead they said, no, we're all snowflakes and we make a wall together and we're the Blizzard. Toronto Blizzard, the new one. Like, so bad.
Oh. Montreal Manic are actually hiring people for their youth academy. I followed them on Facebook after last week's show, so I've been getting.
When's your interview?
If I spoke French, I would go for that. But it is quite cold there as well. I still think PI. PI. Anyway, last bit of MLS news, and then we'll pretty much wrap the show up. Phil Neville was appointed Inter Miami manager.
Yeah.
I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. It could be a car crash. Maybe I'm proved wrong. He's just so inexperienced for taking this on. He's inexperienced just in general in football management without coming to a league where it's completely alien to anything that he knows.
I don't know, Michael. He owns a football club. I think he knows what he's doing.
He owns an English football club that does not have to deal with weird shit.
I'm just
I know.
I'm just making fun. Yeah, I mean, it's...
I was hoping to be on his introductory press conference, but Inter Miami will just not add me to their mailing list to get on the calls.
Oh.
I've been trying all week, and I just wanted to go on the call.
Because you're Scottish?
Maybe. I just wanted to go on and went, Phil, I really want to know your memories of playing for Man United against East Fife in that 1995 friendly at Bayview when you came on as a second-half sub. Talk us through that day and just how special it was for you.
That would be so good.
I would wear my strip that we wore that day, which was a special tartan strip for the occasion.
That would be awesome.
I will get him. I will ask him that question.
I believe it.
If he comes here...
It lasts that long.
Oh, that's true. I was going to say, if he comes here, but yeah, you'll be out by then. Anyway, that is it for our MLS chat. Before we round the show off, though, we've got to have this week's wavelength. I promised you some different kind of sounds this month. We've had a reggae song. Now we're actually going to have a little bit of rockabilly. Do you like some rockabilly, Zach? You look like a guy that would like rockabilly.
Yeah, I look like that. I could do with or without it.
I'm not really a fan, but I'm down the bottom of the football wavelength songs at the moment. So this is a song from 2009, but it's from a punk band, or a punk new wave band, that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, but they changed their style completely. 10-Pole Tudor. Don't know if you know about them. They did Swords of a Thousand Men. Who Killed Bambi? Who Killed Bambi? Who Killed Bambi? No, not ringing any bells. Okay. Anyway, this is a song from their 2009 album. Made it this far. This is 10-Pole Tudor with Football Rockabilly.
Kickball, I wanna kick it. I wanna get my goal. I breathe for it to cricket. It's got a bigger ball. Here I am on a football pitch. I'm running down the wing. I wanna get it in. I'm here to go. Give me that ball. Give me that ball. I want to get my goal. I want to get that ball. I press it on the shoulder. I press it on the mat. I press it on the knee. Press play to me. Do me, 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 ball over here. I don't mean a football league. It's no professional. We don't play Wembley. No, no. Whoa, ba-doom-ba, la-ba-doo-ba, ooh, bless my soul. Whoa, ba-doom-ba, la-ba-doo-ba, ooh, let's go. I punch it on the shore, punch it on the mat, punch it on the knee. First play to me. Do-me, 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 punch it over here. I don't mean the football league, no professionality. We don't play Wembley, we can't get in an alley. Then I drink, so I don't have to think about that girl. Let me drink. Lift me here with my football skill. I wanna kill her, well I don't really. The only thing I've got to do
10-pole Tudor, football rockabilly, something a little bit different to round off tonight's show. That is it. Thank you for staying with us for another filled episode. Just before we go, let everyone know where they can find you online, Zach, and any final comments that you want to make.
On Twitter, it's at ZacharyAM. And yeah, stay safe, and especially if that snow comes.
Yeah, fingers crossed we get.
Or when?
Some
I guess
snow.
when it comes, right?
I love the snow. I want it to come.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Do you want to come out and play? I don't know how the song goes.
I've got a special carrot. You should see what I did with it today. Yep. You can find me watching Disney Plus because I've signed up to it. Zach's turned me on. Maybe I'll rephrase that. Maybe I won't have a big pause. Zach's turned me on to what films to watch to catch up with the Marvel universe because I've been watching WandaVision and really been enjoying it. He wanted to know what films of the Marvel universe I had watched. I said, X-Men 1. I was like, oh.
That's not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
No.
But
So I've got a lot of catching up to do by the looks of it. Big fan of Harley Quinn though, so looking forward to seeing her in all these.
As long as you follow that map I sent you, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you just said everything and you sent me a
No,
gift
but I gave you the
every
order.
single film on it.
Yep, it's the film and the TV shows and the one-shots. It's the order you watch it in.
Yeah, so there might not be much on AFTN for the coming years as I kind of catch up with
Hey,
this.
I'm rewatching that thing. I'm rewatching it this year.
Oh. Yeah. It's so many things to watch in so little time. If only there was something that happened in the world that gave us more time to be at home. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Give us a follow on Instagram at AFTN Soccer. And please like, subscribe, turn on notifications on our YouTube channel, AFTN Canada on YouTube. We'll be back next week with another fun-filled show. Going to have some interviews I'm working on, hopefully to bring you in next week's show as well. Maybe with a little CPL bent with the draft coming up on Friday. I'm going to have some stuff that I wrote for some site. I have no idea what it was, but it was about the draft and the Canada West, sort of my top four. I'll tweet that out when it comes out. But anyway, until then, thanks for listening. Take care. And mon the Caps. Let's get that number 10.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.